What do you think? So, more, I'm going to give you two options. You get to pick A or B. Dee, 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 da, dee, 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 da, dee, da, dee, da, da, dee, da, dee, dee. Or dee, 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 da, dee, 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 da, dee, da, 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 dee, da. Why? Well, and it's more of that, it's a little bit more separated, that it's more, a little bit more march-like. I'm not saying it's a march like a John Philip Sousa march, but just a little bit more separated. You've got to really think high on this note, because what key are we in, do you know?
I'm not sure.
That F sharp wants to lead to, it wants to go to, it wants to lead up a half step. Yeah. You look at your last sharp and go up a half step, that's the key ring. But look what's happening here with all these C sharps. What's that all about? Here's what happens. G, A, B, C, D. The fifth step of every scale is called the dominant step. Dominant sounds pretty important, right? So if I was in the key of D, what would be the seventh step? So what we're starting out in G, but Couperin is saying, oh, I want you to think about the fifth step. I think the fifth step's important. So he's making it sound like we're in D for a while with those C sharps. So we've got to make sure that the C sharp is sounding high enough so that it feels like it's leading. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So we always want to make the seventh step sound a little bit bigger. Take your time here. Even with these slurs, we still want to stay marched like D, D, a, D, a, da, da, D, da, D, da, da. Play this for me right here. 2, ready, and D, D, a, D, a, D, D. Okay, separate that a little bit. Ready, and D. Okay, you do it on your. What's the matter? You don't like my copy? 1, 2, ready, and D, D, a, D, a, da, da. No. See, I don't want you to slow that. Because we want to get back to that march style. D, D, a, D, a, da, da, D. Okay, try it again. 2, ready, and D, D, a, D, a, da, da, D, da, D, da, da. Yeah, and all I'm doing is, it's the same notes, we're just changing the style a little bit, okay? Make sense? So, lots of times when we look at things like this, and somebody wrote on this original copy, Mark Copter, I don't know, maybe it was your teacher. But depending on what we're playing, we have to play within that style. If it said cantabile, that means like in a singing-like manner, and so you'd be really smooth. So we always want to check out what we mean by this. And the great thing about your age that didn't exist when I was your age, which of course is only a couple of years ago, but you could look up March with Clavier by Couperin on YouTube, and you'd hear it. It's a piano solo, but you could just find all these things now in recordings, and you'd hear different style things that I had to find a vinyl record album. They were really flat, and they were about this big. And
I don't think they know what those are.
Yeah, but now, oh my gosh, there's just so many things at your disposal that you can listen to. It's amazing. Does the county have an account with Naxos Music Library?
I'm not sure.
Naxos Music Library is a listening site, and some of the counties will get a subscription to it.
Sure.
And I think Brevard pays a couple $1,000s a year. It's called Naxos Music Library. I even have it on my phone. Naxos, Naxos Music Library. Now, if you put your user's name as Brevard Schools M,
okay,
and your password is also Brevard Schools M,
okay,
you're on.
Awesome.
And if you were to type in Couperin, March for Clavier, you might get 20 recordings, and all these CDs just pop up that all have recordings on it. It's an incredible resource.
Sounds amazing.
Like the guys at Satellite, in Brevard County, they don't even tell their kids, it makes me nuts. But the guys at Satellite, the things that they're thinking about doing for MPA, they get a listening list and the kids log on and you go, here's a listening list of all the stuff we're working on. It's pretty cool.
Wow, that's phenomenal.
Okay, my dear, I'll stop taking